Hey guys, welcome to the Macro Trader Update. Today is Tuesday, March 12th, and on the list of things we're going to cover today, we're going to do the overall market. We haven't taken a look at our macro dashboard in a little bit, so we'll take a quick look at that. We'll take a look at the CPI data that just got released this morning at 8 o'clock, and then we'll look at the technicals for Bitcoin and then Solana. Okay. So let's dive in. Okay, looking at the S&P 500 via the SPY, we are consolidating. We're up a half percentage right now, so things are going good. I think the uptrend is still being had. The CPI data, and we'll discuss afterwards, didn't have too much of a impact on the market, and it actually rallied, so I think that's a good thing. Right now, we don't have any major downside or targets. Let's see, we have right here for 511. For the downside on the SPY, and then a upper resistance target of 518 right now for the S&P 500. Interesting thought about these markets. Usually during all-time highs, everything kind of just grinds straight up. Very few dips, and it's going to be 1-2% dips. But until that kind of trend changes, and we see larger than 2 or 3, 4, 5 percentage point dips, then I think the market's going to kind of keep grinding higher. Moving over to NASDAQ, we're doing about the same at up a half percentage point. We are right now trading at 439, and we are right above our upway projection. So this is going to be our support for now, and things look like they're doing well. We kind of hit this moving average here and holding that moving averaging strong. So very similar to an S&P, I think things are going to continue to grind higher from here. Moving over to the VIX right now. VIX did get a little elevated. Yesterday we were up 3%. It's going to hit some upper target and some resistance here at 15 on the VIX. So hopefully things will be settling down. Probably everybody was kind of positioning, getting afraid of the CPI data. So kind of not surprised we saw that spike up in the VIX, but hopefully it's going to start trending down and continue to just trade in this channel here. Looking at the dollar, again, flat right now. It's on this current downtrend. But things look kind of good for right now for oil, for the dollar. And so that's good for risk assets, like we mentioned. As long as it's on this downtrend, things are going to be good from a risk-taking perspective. Looking at both the yields, it's 2-year. We had this 9 sell right now. Means that the rates could be in for a little bit of the increase on both the 2-year, which should happen a little bit this morning. Moved up maybe 0.2%, so no crazy moves from the CPI data. Similar on the 10-year note as well too. We have 9 sells, which means the value of the bond is going to potentially go down, and then the yields are going to go back up. Gold right now, we hit these 9 sells. Right now, I do have some trades on for gold's futures. I'm targeting this $2,300 here for gold right now. Let's see how it reacts to this 9 sell. It actually, didn't retrace too much back, so I think gold is still on a good uptrend as well too. So, which is good. Oil took a little bit of a dip, and it's been on a downturn. I think with the CPI data, we did see this move up here over the last couple of months, or the last month, anyways, with the oil and gas prices. But I think oil is going to be kind of relatively flat, if not bullish, over the next couple of months as just economic activity and data starts picking back up. So that's a little look at the overall market. So we'll dive over into the CPI release today. Okay, so diving into the actual numbers right now, looking at core CPI month over month, it is 0.4% versus the forecasted of 0.3 in the prior month of 0.4. Core CPI is a little bit different than just regular CPI. Core CPI strips out what the Fed classifies as most volatile components, which is food and shelter. So right now, core CPI year over year is at 3.8% versus the forecasted of 3.7 versus the prior month of 3.9. So on a good downtrend from the month before. Looking at CPI, regular CPI month over month, 0.4% versus the forecasted 0.4 and the prior 0.3. And then CPI year over year, actual at 3.2% versus the forecasted at 3.1% and the prior month at 3.1. So overall, just a little bit hotter than expected, but I think that's good for the market since, a lot of analysts and a lot of traders were actually expecting hotter than these numbers. So I think that's going to be good. As we saw a good reaction from the market, and things are up at about a half percentage. So With that, let's dive into actually CPI reports. Before, I never even seen the CPI reports. I'll put a link in there for you guys to take a look at it if you're interested, but we'll kind of quickly go over to see what categories went up or down the most for this month. So this is the actual report from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. It does kind of go over some of the details and gives you a nice quick summary. I like the dashboard that we were just looking at just because it shows you the relationships pretty quickly. But let's just kind of dive into some of the ones that increased the most over month, just to kind of see where things got really heated. It seems like the largest increase we had from February to January was 3.8%, and that was gasoline. I think we all felt it, and I saw, some of the pump prices increase, so that made sense. The other component was just 3.6%, which was the energy commodities, and overall the energy sector was up 2.3%, which probably was the reason why we saw such a big increase. Maybe another notable ones was 2.3% was your utility and gas services went up. And then let's see which ones kind of decreased the most month over month. And, I think it's a kind of a tie between relatively flat anyways, with new vehicles down 0.1% and then medical care services down. Also, another good interesting thing to look at as well is like the year over year changes. Let's see, if we can spot something here that's up the most. And I think transportation services is almost at 10% increase year over year for us here, which is pretty high. So, I think all the transportation costs have been going up, and not surprising that, a lot of folks are paying a little bit more. Biggest decrease I think I see here is this negative 8.8%. And so our utilities went down year over year. And I've noticed that in, kind of our gas bill, and it's been a little bit cheaper than what we've been expecting before. So that's just a little bit of, the details within the report. Pretty interesting if you guys are always interested into diving into that. Sometimes inflation, and there's been a lot of talks about, the inflation metrics. This inflation metric sometimes kind of hides the actual cost of some things. Inflation for me, it might be a little bit different for inflation for you or somebody older, or somebody younger. Somebody younger, some of the things like medical care won't be that expensive to them and not much impact, but let's say education and then shelter might be really important for young people. And then for older people, medical care services are really important to them, and their cost adds up, but maybe they're not traveling as much and buying new cars and eating as much. And so those numbers might not impact the people differently. So I think it's always important to kind of look at inflation and then kind of build that number specifically for you, your age group, and then come to some of the things that you do in life. So, okay, so moving over to Bitcoin, just maybe some news here. I thought this was a really interesting article from CoinDesk that El Salvador is sitting on $84 million worth of profit from their Bitcoin holdings. I don't know if some of you followed El Salvador from the last Bitcoin cycle, but they were one of the first countries in the world to kind of adopt Bitcoin and use it as part of their treasury and their currency. They actually released the wallet, and airdropped Bitcoin directly to the citizens for El Salvador, and which is really cool. Bukele has been, super bullish on crypto. He's been, I think there's some rumors with him meeting with some of the Middle Eastern countries as well too. And one of the things that blew my mind last cycle was that El Salvador, started doing what they were calling volcano bonds, and they're basically using the thermal energy out of the volcanoes and using it to mine Bitcoin, and then selling that as bonds, and then using, the first Bitcoin bonds or volcano bonds. Really interesting. I hope, a lot of other countries start developing and starting adapting this, and this will help adoption. I think this is critical and super critical that people around the world, and a lot of the times we only care about crypto going up, but other countries in the world actually rely on crypto because and believe in it because it's kind of the only way out, just because some of the governments have been devaluing the currency so much. And then taking another dive into the flows. So yesterday, the 11th, we had about $500 million. Again, this is kind of crazy. We had a little bit of a dip on Friday on the 8th at about, $200 million, but, everything's been averaging around like $400 million every single day, regardless of what the price of Bitcoin is. And I think, I'm going to keep watching these flows because I think this is probably the most important thing right now to the price of Bitcoin. When we see some kind of fluctuations and changes in this might, give us an indication of, what could be happening with the price. Again, some of the major inflows was coming from iBits. which is the BlackRock ETF. And then the biggest outflows, again, continue to be GBTC. So, and then looking at the technical side of Bitcoin, we did have these 19 and 13s here for sell signals for combo and sequential. Let's see how it reacts. We did see a dip, but Bitcoin is trading at, $72,000 right now. And that's the thing with, some of these indicators and DeMark specifically. We're going to kind of keep seeing some of these counts. And I think it's probably more important to see what the reaction to the count is rather than taking the absolute, these are 13s, we got to sell. So I did re-enter my trade, my Bitcoin futures trade right here, just because I saw that the price action was relatively good and it didn't really sell off drastically after hitting these strong sell signals. Also, RSI is starting to come up, and so hopefully, the momentum is going to still be an upside along with those Bitcoin ETF inflows. Really hard to fight those right now. Looking at the weekly, I think maybe the next important thing is looking at this $75,000 upper target. But again, I think we're going to kind of blow past this and continue to see the price appreciation for Bitcoin. Cool article from the block is that, Solana registered some all-time high new addresses for this year, which is pretty cool. I think that I'm not surprised. We'll talk a little bit about the technical and the price appreciation, but you're looking at this chart right here. End of October, which is, close to like the bottom of the cycle right here, we had about, 90,000 users or active new addresses. And then we just hit some new highs of about what it looks like close to $700,000 new addresses on Solana. Again, I'm not too surprised. I think, over the last week or so, a lot of the meme coins from Solana have been going crazy. And then a lot of there's new coins and just a lot of activity right now on Solana. And I think everybody's going to slowly continue to get sucked into Solana. And then let's take a look at the price appreciation and the technical, just to see what kind of impact this has. So looking at the charts for Solana, things look really good right now. We're trading, a little under $150 right now. We got some upper targets here for 160. Momentum is, still pretty strong, and we're in this overbought territory from DeMark. We're at a 7 right now for a sell countdown. So I think, a couple more days to go until maybe a small dip, but let's kind of continue seeing this trend. On the hourly, we have some up targets of 157, and it's just been trading in this range. We have some lower targets of 145 here. And then looking at the weekly, really good strong uptrend right now. Momentum is just starting to pick up, so we could be in for another couple of weeks, months worth of price appreciation for Solana. We have some upper targets here for some resistance here at $243, and then some other minor ones here at 147, which we already blew past. So next major one right below that one is about $220. So right around the $200 range, and hopefully Solana is going to be making that move, and I think Solana is going to be pushing for that for the next month or so. So that's kind of a quick recap of the overall market and how some of the cryptos are trading. I hope you guys have a good day, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow.